What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie to 988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And tonight I want to talk to you about loneliness, chronic loneliness, and social isolation, and what it's like to not feel like you belong and not to be a part of society and not to have a friend or very many friends or not to get along with your family and the impact it can have on you. Now, this is something that's affected me a large portion of my life. I felt like I couldn't associate with the kids around me growing up. I felt like I couldn't associate with the adults around me growing up because of my obesity. Of course, I've been a pariah. I find it difficult to go over to a friend's home, for example, because I don't know that I'll fit on their furniture or things to that effect. And it's always made it very difficult to connect with somebody. And often I've connected with people over gaming, which has been but we'll get to that. And the reason I'm making this video is because I read a study that recently said that social isolation is more deadly by twice. It's more likely to kill you, twice as likely to kill you, than morbid obesity. And that obviously caught my eye, but that's bizarre. So I went on to read the article, and it said that people who are chronically lonely, chronically socially isolated, have a higher tendency to commit suicide. They tend to be have a lower quality of life. They succumb to illnesses easier. It sucks. It sucks. And it's amazing how important it is to have mental and to some extent physical contact with people around you. It's so important. In fact, what someone once said, and I think this was a TED Talk, but I don't remember where, but someone once said that, you know how you punish a prisoner? A prisoner who's locked away in a prison with murderers and rapists and gangsters and drug abusers and just awful people. You know how you punish them? You put them in solitary. You cut their amount of time in the common area. You take them away from other people because it's better to be around murderers and rapists and terrible prisoners and evil people than it is to be alone. That's something. That's powerful, you know? And the reality of it is, I felt it. I knew it. I was a shut-in. I talked about this before, but I was a shut-in for nearly 7 years of my life. Fortunately for me, I had one friend, and his name was Chad. He's going to be the best man at my wedding. And that friend made our relationship has always been a little weird in that we're roommates and just a tidbit more. And I genuinely care for the guy, but he's a very soft-spoken, very personal person. He's very private. So it's very weird in that it wasn't like a full-on friendship really, but kind of different, but kind of better. So it's hard to really get into that. And I will give you a good example of what my relationship with that friend has been like. We've known each other for 20 years, and we've lived together all but 1 year of that time. And he has personally saved my life a couple of times. And I think to myself, if I didn't have that relationship, which I found in my early 20s, if I didn't have that friendship, I would be dead. On two separate occasions, I got an infection in my body that caused me to go septic. And that infection left me debilitated and unconscious for days at a time in my bed. And both of those times, this roommate, drugged me to the emergency room where they brought me back from the edge of life. One time it was so bad the infection was even in my bloodstream in my heart. And he pulled me from that. So yes, absolutely, anecdotally, I can tell you the evidence is there. I would be a dead man had I not made that one friend. As a kid, I had no friends. And I thought about suicide all the time. All the time. With all the shit that I was going through. And so, the perfect... I've got a really good point here. I'm going to make the point. But I want to tell you one last story before I do. One day, I was talking to my friend Joe online. And he was an internet friend. And we should talk about the entire internet phenomenon and how it affects people with chronic loneliness and with social isolation. My good friend Joe and I were playing Warcraft 3, and we came into a disagreement one day. And after that disagreement, I was just livid. I completely lost my mind. I was crazy. I've always been crazy. And I went to the kitchen, and I grabbed a knife, and I started cutting my arms. And it was just bleeding away. And I was laying in the living room floor, And Lord knows what I could have done that day. Lord knows what I would have done to myself that day. But I can tell you this, I was bleeding like a crazy person. And I had 4 or 5 gashes on either arm. Just, I mean, not like a cutting gash, like just going at it. Well, I can't believe I'm sharing this story. I really debated not doing it. But anyway, I woke my roommate up. He's always worked nights and slept days. And so I woke him up. And he came in there and he's like, Boog? Is everything okay? No, it's not. Well, you want to tell me what's wrong? No, I really don't. Okay. So they're making a Spider-Man movie. Yeah, I heard about that. Well, did you hear they cast Tobey Maguire? And we talked about that movie for a while, and we talked about life. And he helped me find ground level when I was so far gone, so far up in the air. And just another example of a time I would have lost my fucking shit. I would have lost my mind without having a support structure, without having people around me. How I would be dead. I guarantee it. Now, the internet, the article said, goes on to actually compound the problem because we use the internet to work as a surrogate for an actual relationship. And I have some friends in my life, my good friend Tim, my good friend Adam, my good friend my good friend Jay, my good friend. So in fact, just so many people that I've never met physically that are very important in my life, very important in my life. And those relationships are wonderful relationships, and I'm not questioning them for a second. Some of the best friends in my life, I've never met. You know, I met them through World of Warcraft. I met them through gaming. I met them through this YouTube thing. But that said, they can't provide all of the things that an actual support structure can. My good friend Adam was very pivotal in my healing and did everything he could, but there was only so much that he can do being in Pennsylvania. And I know that a lot of people, one of the reasons YouTube is so successful, and one of the reasons I think people relate to me so much is because right now it feels like you and I are in the same room together. And I'm able to talk to you about this really important stuff. And I can hopefully get your mind in the right mindset to deal with this kind of stuff, or at least make you realize how lucky you are to not have to deal with it, you know? But at the end of the day, there's only so much I can do. There's only so much any of us I can do. And the point that I'm making is, in order to make the friends that I have, in order to have the fiance that I'm about to marry, it wasn't YouTube money. Somebody's going to say that in the comments, and that's okay. It certainly wasn't. I've been broke the majority of my life, and I'm certainly not rich now. But some people are going to say, well, you've always been charismatic. You've always been funny. No, I wasn't. I was a judgmental, full-on negative prick bastard who was socially awkward and made jokes that offended and upset people and made them not want to be around me. It was hard work making friends. And I had to meet not just a handful of people, but hundreds of people to make that one friend. And so what I'm trying to say here is, if you are suffering from chronic loneliness, if you're suffering from social isolation, you've got to do something about it. This is not just the quality of your life, but the quantity of your life as well. And it's going to suck. It's going to suck to try to make a friend, okay? It's going to suck when you make an asshole out of yourself and you make a joke that offends people, or you're just too fat, you know, or whatever it is that keeps you from making those relationships and being able to fully connect with another friend or a girl or a guy or whatever it is you're into, or a romantic relationship or a friendship. Whatever it is that's keeping you from doing that, you gotta practice to fix it. And you're gonna meet a lot of assholes. But if you have to meet 1,000 assholes to make a friend as good as my friend Chad, or my friend Jason, or even, you know, some of my online friends too, but if you have to meet 1,000 assholes to make that one friend, they can save your life. And at the very least, They will add a quality and a quantity of your life that you're missing right now. And I know how scary it is. I know how hard it is. I know how easy it is to just sit at home and play video games and log into World of Warcraft and say, this is enough, I'm happy. I know, because I did it for 7 years. But take it from me, that shit's got to change.